Well, welcome everybody to an informal gathering.
She's about to work.
Oh, they are? All right. Well, they'll figure out to be the police chief. So this is Ed Berman. But you've been the police chief for...
Well, including the acting?
Well, okay.
Including the acting, 3 years.
3, okay.
Yeah.
And the official for the last year?
Year and a half.
Year and a half. There you go. There you go. So before you were here in Wayland, you were where?
So I did 20 years in Framingham in multiple roles, including safety officer, logistics officer, a little of everything. And then in 2013, I went to the Ashland Police Department, and I was there for almost 8 years.
And you still live in Ashland, right?
Still live in Ashland.
Yeah.
I can't afford Wayland.
And then this is Tom Holder, who's been DPW director for
8.
Has it? Wow. Wow, I don't know what we would do.
I know. Doesn't seem like it was all that long ago.
Yeah. So before Wayland, you were where?
City of Boston was the town of Framingham.
We were with each other in Framingham.
Yeah.
Yes.
Medway and everything. So I've got a total of 36 years.
Wow. Awesome. So the genesis of this meeting was with the ZBA hearing for terrain. There were a lot of questions and comment letters. I got sucked into your neighborhood chat group, which was great. But there were just questions about traffic, right? That wasn't really terrain. And so it was a question, well, okay, well, if there's a problem and we know it's not terrain because we're not there yet, is there something we can look at now? And I know other roads and streets have looked at it. So I just called up Tom and I called up Chief Ed and I said, you know, can we just have a quick meeting, talk about it, figure out is there anything we can do? And so that was the genesis of this meeting. And it sounds like there was some history that you guys actually looked at this back in 2012. And the question, was anything done?
Yes.
Did anything work? So it might help actually to like dial back for a second and hear what was talked about back then, what if anything was done, and did it work? And then we can get into what is it today, what are the issues, and then leave it at the forefront of these two gentlemen at the front of the room. But so what was done back in 2012?
Well, the same issues came up and the same solutions came up. Maybe some different people, but the vast majority of people felt that there was too much speeding on the road. That traffic had increased, that it used to be safe to walk side by side with somebody with a dog, the entire length all the way to Wayland Road, and that it wasn't anymore. And this was about the time when we put the bridge in, so that time frame, we're talking roughly 2012, but it didn't last just 1 month. The discussion went on for some time.
And the Whole Foods was in play at that point?
Yeah. And pretty much the thing was full, the shopping center, but that was not the issue. The issues involved speeding, speed bumps, speed humps, line of sight lacking in some places, lack of enforcement. I think those were the primary issues, and safety of people walking with their dogs, walking with their kids on bicycles. So that's my memory. That was the main issue. So it's never an issue when it was flooding.
So the 2012 you said was after the bridge was built?
The bridge was finished in 2012, I believe. It was built the year before, except for the final layer of concrete of tar. So you could drive over it that winter, and in the spring they put the final coat on. And I'll have to tell you, I was the first car to drive over it. We had a little failure. We made an arrangement with the fire department to bring Santa Claus across at Robin's house. And they were going to be the first non-construction company to drive by. Union agreed, they all did that, and then raced across the bridge. So nobody could photograph it. You know, double border, and that's that street. What we did about it, Chief Irving and I got together and discussed it with Lincoln. He said he needed to do a survey. The road had no speed limits at all. It was just an open road, so you could drive at any speed you wanted to. He said, and I didn't back this up, but he said that he had to have state approval. So he did a survey. Traffic volume, traffic speeds, times of day, and came up with 25 miles an hour that he took to the state, got approval for it, got the signs up, and there was a little bit of enforcement at the beginning, but then it's kind of stopped. Occasionally we see some policemen behind this little shop plaza up here. Occasionally we'll see one up and down the road, but there are speeders, and they're not all from outside of our neighborhood. There's people in our neighborhood that speed too. And not all the side streets, none of them have speed signs. And for a little comedy, if you go to the Sudbury Wayland line, there are 2 speed signs as you go west. The first one says 25 miles an hour, about 20 feet away, it says 30 miles an hour.
That's my problem.
Another 30 mile an hour, I think, it's Sudbury, for 25 miles an hour. Wayland, but it's facing 180 degrees in the wrong direction. So that's a little. So we're right back where we started. People were pretty much against speed. I don't think it was too in favor of it. One person was pretty vocal about not liking the idea of 25 miles an hour, which had already been imposed. He felt it was really restricting his driving time. Well, we ran some calculations, it was about 25 seconds to his house for his one difference. So kind of discount that. It's been working pretty well, other than the enforcement. And the things that are still outstanding as far as I'm concerned, starting at the eastern end, that curve where the 2 roads come together at a sharp angle. That's too sharp. I've always proposed that we move one of those roads, close it, and open up the crossroad directly from the town center, the town hall. But short of that, that sharp point that's right there should be condemned. People coming east from and trying to make a turn in there almost hit cars coming down Pelham Island onto Route 20 eastbound. That is a very dangerous piece of parcel. If you're coming eastbound from Pelham Island to 20 and you're going to go east, there are several driveways right there. You have to twist your head way beyond where you can to see what's coming east down 20, only to have a car pull out of one of those driveways. I can't imagine why the town ever let that happen. Those could be combined into one driveway. It would require the owners to do something and combine, because the lots are separated, not only legally, but you can't drive one to the other. That needs to be straightened out. That's a very dangerous section. And by the way, my background is safety for major corporations, so I speak with some authority. The second thing is in the spring and until winter, the leaves fall off. The entrance onto Jeffrey Road going west is horrible. You can't see. You have to put most of your car into Pelham Island Road to come out of Jeffrey Road.
First one or
The lower.
So one closer to the
Jeffrey.
river. One closer to the river.
Yeah.
Eastern.
And to come out of there, the vegetation is such that you cannot see, and people come speeding down the hill. So you've got another seriously dangerous situation. The town comes out and once or twice a year, it clears the Japanese knotwood that looks like bamboo along the road. They don't go to Jeffrey Road and do the same thing. And it's only 200 feet. That's a problem, and it should be done. The next problem is up at sorry, Chris, but up at the Sears house. You can't see around that, and the town used to do some shading with foliage there, and they've been neglecting that. And as a result, if you drive slowly and somebody's coming the other direction, either on a bicycle, car, or walking, they're paying attention, it's okay. But that doesn't happen more than half the time. Somebody's coming the other way, they're going, when I say speed, they may be doing 25 miles an hour. That's too fast for that one. 15 is too fast. But that's just that little corner.
This is a corner just before you get Earth Pond. This is, if it dives down, that's
Yeah.
the Sears house, that one.
Yeah. Near the Wilsons as well. It's town property. I don't know.
This is nice. This falls under Tom.
It's town property, and I don't want the town to just do something about it. The last thing I would mention is this one telephone pole that's between between the Russell's property and the bridge. It's on the south side of the road. It's got a yellow stripe on it. Because it's a definite hazard as you're coming down that road, especially if you think in terms of spring and fall, when we get some pretty heavy fogs occasionally. I've seen some very heavy fogs going down in this area because we're road. And wouldn't be difficult to find somebody wrapped around the telephone. At one point, Eversource would be able to fix it. They didn't, and somebody, I assume it was your department, put this reflector stripe on it, which helps. But I if somebody's paying attention, you're not gonna be wise, you know, an 18-year-old kid who decides he's gonna race his family car down the road. We used to have a lot of traffic from the Sudbury car dealers, and with after some complaints, Chief Irving, I think it's Chief Irving, went out and discussed it with the ones that were there at the time and said, stop testing your car.
Now they're on River Road near my facility.
Probably. And we hear them all the time, gunning their engines on 20, but you know, that area on 20 with the highway engines, that's, you know, it's a half a mile or thereabouts of fairly clear. That's not true on Pelham Island. So we have not been having this problem. That got resolved.
Now, let me add to that, if I may, is John Rocha, 171 Pelham Island Road. Mercedes and the new kids on the block in that multi-point area, and they haven't got that memo, because there's a ton of Mercedes now test driving and mechanics test driving. It's definitely gone way up. It's very useful. So if we can talk to them.
We can definitely talk to them. We actually talked to them a while ago.
You did.
River Road, and
The
they were,
BMW dealership.
when the BMW dealership went in, so they don't use it, but we didn't talk to the other dealerships. Yeah, now they have new ownership. Yeah.
Right, yeah, and the Mercedes is brand new.
Right. Yeah, we can have a conversation with them.
If I may, just with the pedestrian along Pelham Island, Wayland Street's 11 Irwin. The two other sort of points I feel nervous about walking are, one is the curve by the parking lot at Great Meadows. If you are walking towards Sudbury and you are walking on the correct side of the road, that's a tight thing, low visibility for the drivers coming around. And the other is that just past the pond, heading into Sudbury, the curve and the narrowness of the road, especially with where the edge of the pond is, just gets a little tight for everyone, especially if there are cars parked down there because someone's enjoying some time next to the pond.
Especially in the winter time, people out on the ice.
So are those vegetation things, or is it just the roadway is so narrow? As part of it, we don't have any room to go out.
The second one is more of the road is narrow.
Yeah.
Problem, and there's not a lot to be done about it. The first one I mentioned, which is across, it's where the parking area is.
Yeah.
For Great Meadows, it's the shape of the road, that sort of that sharp curve.
Yeah.
And there are trees in the way, so it's partly a vegetation thing, but also it's a slope up, and it'd be awkward anyway.
One of the problems there is conservation land.
Right.
Conservation people in the past have been
Federal
very,
It is.
local, but very reluctant to let study who had your job before.
Yeah.
Doing it, he tried, and you know, along the lake, there's one place where it's pretty barren and you got the barriers there. That was the only thing conservation department let them do. There's some federal rule about having, if you take more than a certain amount of stuff out of the lake, you have to put it somewhere else within 500 feet. Those whole rules didn't make any sense, but over time, land that was not in the river, in the lake, is now in the lake, and we should have been able to retrieve it. Those barriers would be sufficient, maybe 10% of the accidents that happen there. I mean, I wouldn't trust that at all.
One other vegetation issue is that, especially down in the area along the pond, the side of the road is poison ivy. So if you're walking along there, you do not want to step off the road into the unpaved surface for that. And those are just tight spots. Sometimes you think, I'd rather not step off the road anyway, but sometimes you want to do that when the cars are going a little faster.
Yeah, I agree with that point, and that the people who are cutting through expect you to step off sometimes, and if you're surrounded by poison ivy. And I think it's also, what exacerbates this is the mindset of cutting through is, I'm gonna get there faster. So all those people are coming through in a mindset of, let's go, and they don't seem to feel that the 25 is being enforced. I would add a couple of timeframes for that. Where I live, our house is on the north side of Pelham Island, just east of Perthville. And it happens to be, as you go past Herd Road, there's one more turn, and then it's quite straight there, all the way down to Wayland and actually beyond. And so as people navigate eastbound towards Sudbury, they make that last turn, because Herd Road, okay, they slow down a little, they make that last turn, and it's an open. So we feel like we're on the straightaway of the speedway, just open up the throttle. And that happens most pronounced is Friday and Saturday from 4 to 6, which is no surprise. And then also early in the mornings, commuters, so like 5:30 to 7:30, maybe 8 o'clock. So a lot of people moving very fast because of the cut through mentality.
I like that as well. I'm in 269 Pelham Island, Wayland, and then half my house is 2 Pelham Island, Sudbury. So I'd like to get to the bottom of those 2 traffic signs that you mentioned, because there's a granite marker on my lawn, which I believe is supposed to be the town line, and both of those traffic, whatever, speed limit signs are on the Sudbury side. And then across the street where it's definitely Wayland, where the traffic sign is heading towards Route 20 from Landham. That's definitely on Wayland property. I know that because I know where his town line cuts through. So I don't know why on the Sudbury side of this marker, there's a 25, and then maybe 10 yards later, there's a 30 mile an hour.
The 25 is, for me, the 25 mile an hour sign, I believe, is a town light sign that you see wherever you enter town.
But we're not in Wayland at that point.
You know, I know.
Yes,
Sudbury's proposing a 25 mile an hour limit on speed unless it's posted otherwise, and that's what it says. And it is posted otherwise, it's posted 35. So
30, yeah.
30.
So I have a suggestion, I don't know, maybe you, as a potential current, because I believe people modify their behavior when there's some kind of a stick, right? So could there be a camp like on that, so to your point, I'm on a stretch of road where it's straight, and people love to accelerate from when you make a bend from Sudbury, and then pretty much down to where the pond starts. It's rather straight. And I've mentioned it at one of these meetings, but a tree fell across Pelham Island. Some guy came up my lawn and out my driveway because God forbid he turned around. I'm assuming it was a male. I don't have a camera on my house. But that just speaks to, you know, it's a great example of the cut through mentality. So I would love to see some kind of a camera, like they have it on the boxes in Manhattan, unbeknownst to me, because I got a ticket in the mail, but you get the drift, right?
They're not legal in Massachusetts.
Oh, well, that's unfortunate.
Yes. Can't do that in Massachusetts. But so couple things. Let me, as we're talking about speed, let me just chime in here a little bit. So couple things and I'm going to tell you about a study that I did. So the way the human brain perceives moving objects, the more narrow the road, the faster the car appears that it's going, when it might not be actually going that speed. And the analogy I like to use is this. If you were on the Mass Pike doing 55 miles an hour, very wide road, you would feel like you were crawling, okay? But if you were doing 55 on Pelham Island, you would obviously feel like you're going 55 or faster, right? And again, that's the way our brain just perceives moving objects. Now, I did a study from May 27th to June 3rd, okay? Now, where I did the study was right after the bridge, on this side. Obviously, I can do another study by that straightaway. I'd like to see that. So I want to share that data with you. and explain it to you, because it's important that you see this. I've got a couple of different reports I ran.
So this is eastbound, just past.
This is both directions.
Both directions.
So I'll tell you what I did. So when I came to Wayland, so, oh, I'm sorry. I noticed they did not have any method to do any data collection. And this was, and this is called a stealth radar unit. And I have a lot of experience with it. So I actually purchased one my first year here. So whenever I get a traffic complaint, I need data, right? Because I need to understand, do we actually have a problem or do we not? But the other thing that the system tells me is it'll actually give me times where we need to do enforcement. So that way, I'm not sending an officer out there wasting his time with no traffic. It's actually, it might tell me, hey, you know what? You have a problem between 3 and 4 in the afternoon, okay? And then that way we can focus our enforcement. Now, I should have done all this ahead of time, right? I got another report I'll show you in a minute. But a couple of things on this. So if you notice in that, I believe it's a 7-day period, the road handled 8,424 cars. Now, that number is kind of low. And I'm gonna tell you why, because I compare this to other streets in Wayland, right? So think of Pequot Road. Everyone knows Pequot, where Happy Hollow School is, right? That road in a 7-day period handles approximately 17,000 vehicles. You've got a lot of kids cutting through for the high school, the buses are going back and forth, so you do get a lot of, that road handles, as a neighborhood little road, it handles a lot of traffic, right? And we've done some road improvements since we've done those studies there. I don't know if any of you have been on Pequot, we added some stop signs in the middle, and it's been very successful, all right? But I just want to explain this report to you a little bit. So obviously in that period, we handled 8,424 cars. The average speed was 27. Now, the next thing, the fastest car was 43 miles an hour and the slowest was 7. Now, but that could have been the mailman, it could have been, right, different things, right? It's the 85th percentile that we're looking at. Okay, so whenever we do a speed study, we're looking at the 85th percentile for speed, because we always know, right? There's going to be some people that are going over the speed limit. You're going to have those vehicles going under the speed limit, right? The garbage trucks, the mail trucks, different things like that. So your 85th percentile for speed is 31 miles an hour. So 6 miles over the speed limit, right? Now, sometimes I have to push back a little bit, right? Would you want to be stopped somewhere on a road for going 6 miles an hour over the speed limit? Most likely not. And I do know, like, a lot of officers pretty much throughout the Commonwealth, they kind of have a 10 or 12 mile in their brain. I'm not going to stop a car till they're 10 or 12 miles over the speed limit, just to be fair, right? I mean, we can't all say that we perfectly drive the speed limit all the time, right? It's impossible. So I do like to show this report. Now, I was not here when Whole Foods was open, but I can guarantee you that 8,000 number would have been significantly higher if we did this study when Whole Foods was there. Because I can guarantee you had a lot more people going in and out of that shopping plaza.
Let me add one other factor to that. I believe it was in the winter of 2015. We had a lot of damage and we got a state grant. They paved Pelham Island. They also increased the width by a couple of feet with that paving. But prior to that, when Whole Foods was there, Pelham Island is heavily potted. And so there's a lot of people, basically any practice car wouldn't go. And neither were the landscapers with their trailers, because it shakes all their equipment. But once we paved it, great for the kids and the bicycles and stuff. Right. Yeah, so there is a little bit of a difference there. It definitely felt like traffic picked up once it was smooth and.
Oh, and that definitely could be. Right. Now, the other report I just want to bring to your attention is this one, with all the numbers on it. So what this does, this is a report out of the machine. If you look at the top report, it says combined. So these are the amount of vehicles in both directions. It's added them up in both directions, okay? And then you'll see direction, the middle section, direction 1, lane 1, that's traffic heading toward Route 20, okay? And what it does is it breaks it out for you. It counts how many vehicles and their average speed, okay? So, and then the lane 2 is the vehicles heading towards Sudbury. So what the stealth, and I'm sure none of you even saw it, what the stealth radar unit is, it's a small black box, it's about this big, and I mount it on a telephone pole, and that's what it's doing. It's capturing all this data. And then it allows me to generate these reports. So I kind of wanted I thought it was important that you just kind of see this data that we originally had. Now, listening to you tonight, I could definitely see us doing another study further down, closer to the Sudbury line. And that's fine. I have no problem doing that. And then I can email the report out, you know?
Just do one between Hurd and Rowan.
Sure.
Straight away as well.
Sure. Yeah. Now I will tell you, it'll be a few weeks because I've already promised some other neighborhoods and I only have 1 unit. But I just think it's really good. It's good to visualize the data too.
Yeah.
And you said you were talking about times of day, who's chatting down?
Oh, sorry, that's this report. Sorry, there's another report.
Actually,
Oh, I didn't run that report. I'm sorry. I thought I did. I have a report right now. I didn't vote. I didn't remember it. There's so much data.
okay,
I can certainly email that out.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
And another point about what you just brought up. We're in the summer months, not the average month. 9 months a year, we got school buses and kids. It's the proper time to do it.
So, this study was done when school was in session next. If you want to wait till the fall, we certainly can, when school's back in.
Well, if you've got the box and it's available, we can tell by the total count if we had a huge impact.
So I already promised it to 2 more neighborhoods.
That's
So
fine.
that's 14 days.
That's fine.
So the reason I do 7 days, everybody, is because I like to capture a weekend, just to see the difference. Yeah.
Have we lost the Zoom person?
Oh.
I think it's just a range that leaves, yeah.
There we go. No, but I would have, again, I can do another study, even, you know, when school's out, or we can certainly wait till the fall. You know?
Do you guys have a preference? No?
I would propose, let's go ahead and do it,
Yeah.
and then if the data show the traffic is significantly lower, then we would like to do it again in the fall.
Sure.
But
Sure, we can do
I
that.
think the data is
Sure.
really great.
Yeah.
So I comment on the data that you showed us. I'm looking at the speed distribution.
Yes.
Graph. So, you know, I know you talked about how maybe people are driving slower than you think they are, right? And you talked about how, you know, normally you would actually take an enforcement action unless the driver was more than 10 miles at the speed.
Well, that's it depends on the officer, right?
Let's say 10 miles.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so just looking at this data, during this measurement period, there were almost 60 vehicles which exceeded that 10-mile.
Mhm. Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Yep.
So that to me indicates above.
Right. And again, but that's where that other study will help me, because it'll actually help me narrow down times when maybe a majority of those 60 vehicles, you know, because I don't want to have an officer sitting out there for an hour. And like, for example, if I did it, you know, during, sorry, let's look at the other report. I don't have it. So if I look here, like, I'm like, all right, well, look at that on, you know, Saturday mornings, you know, the whole road only handled 20 cars, right?
Same on Sunday.
Right, I'm not putting them out there that day, right? It's a waste of time,
Right.
you know? So, but I do have another report in the system when it actually gives me the times for the best enforcement actions.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because, I mean, on here, clearly, from where you were, taking these readings, people heading west are going much faster. Because they come over the bridge, they're like, oh, it's clear, they hit the
Right.
gas.
Yep.
Whereas people coming down, they know you gotta slow down, you go over the bridge.
Right, and that's the nice thing about this machine, because it's capturing both directions. Yeah.
How effective do you see you have a portable radar speed monitoring device?
So those are good and bad. they work great when you put it out there for a week or two. You'll notice there's certain towns, they have them up, like for example, in front of the middle school.
Yeah.
Right? So people, now that they've just been there, people ignore those after a while. They don't care. But if you put the radar board out, like on a street like Pelham Island Road, you put it out for a week or two, it's great. You know, the minute you take it in, everything changes again, right?
Right.
You know, just like,
Essentially starts becoming ignored. So
yeah, exactly, right. But again, they're good for initially. They're definitely good, and you can randomly move them around. Yep,
And it's good as a reminder, before you're gonna do enforcement, give people a chance to
absolutely. Yeah,
figure out, oh, I'm going too fast. And
Right.
then when they get pinched, they'll be like, oh, that's going too fast.
right, yeah. And I will, so it's kind of funny, so we got a complaint, 3 or 4 days ago, we got a complaint, on a particular road, and the gentleman was very upset with me, and so I sent the officers out the next day, and ironically, the first car they stopped was him. So, you know, again, right, we all, listen, there's no way we can all perfectly do the speed limit all the time, right? I mean, you can't, none of you can tell me that you're always doing the speed limit, right?
No, I actually anecdotally again, but what I found is if you try to go 25, people will pass you on the ladder, they go blowing by. Yeah, so like 27, 28, they put up with it, they're right on your bumper, but they're not passing you, and that's a whole nother level of safety issue.
Right. Yeah, but again, yeah, we can definitely do another study as soon as I do the other 2 neighborhoods, I promised them, so.
So I would say one thing I noticed on the, sorry, I don't know, but on the North Shore, on Newbury, small town, similar to Wayland. And one of the things they have, typically when you see a sign and it blinks your speed, and it's, you know, it's 25 and you're going 32 and you're like, yeah, whatever. Like it just doesn't even go. What they have is a sign that says, this is the speed limit, and you're over it, and it says, slow down, and it blinks you. As soon as you drop below the speed limit, it says, thank you. And you get this little dopamine hit. I mean, it's but it's true, like I have never slowed down at a 25 when it's blinking 32 at me, but when I know that it will, I'll just hit that speed limit and you get it, like it's so simple. People actually pay attention to it.
So, I just applied for a grant, I'm hoping we get it.
Yep.
For a message board that will do that.
Yeah.
Our boards are kind of old, they're over 15 years old, so they don't really do much. So I did apply for a grant, so hopefully we get that grant.
But it works, like people will watch them slow down just to get that little green light, thank you.
Sherborne has one that changes, like during the holidays, it says naughty or nice. And I think people want to see, they change it all the time, and I think people want to see what the other option is, because they're obviously not.
Yeah, and again, you know, when I was in Framingham, you know, we almost had a tragic accident. We had the speed board out on a street, and ironically, about a week earlier, they had made a decision they were going to try a speed hump, which I hate. And they put the message board out, and they had a car of teenagers that, let's see how fast I can go. They didn't know the new speed hump was there, and it launched the vehicle.
Yeah.
Oh.
You know, so again, right? Remember, everything we do, especially with traffic, if we make one change, it's always going to affect something else. Always. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, right? For example, I don't know if any of you have noticed, I finally had these lights fixed here. Here, if you were heading west on Route 20, that left-hand turn signal never worked. It was never programmed from the state. So I had to fight with the state, but they finally came out. So now you get a protected left-hand turn to turn onto 27. That never happened before. Also, if you notice that pedestrian signals have been upgraded here too. So we're doing a lot of pedestrian upgrades, especially with our signal lights.
Thank you, that's great.
So I just wanted to raise a couple things. I'm at the end of the road before it floods. And I noticed that Google I think has a big influence on this. And if you do a Google search, you want to go to Lincoln Station from Jacksonville, or you can go to Millis. You can make a Google search that will tell you to do a 45-minute run, and it'll take you through Pelham Island Road, and it'll say, this is the fastest route. So I think we're getting some people that don't know the neighborhood, that are coming through. You see box trucks sometimes, it doesn't seem like they're passing through, and they're these big box trucks. So I think, and during the flood, the reason I know is because there are barrels there, but people, they got their phones, they're like, this road should be open, and they're moving the barrels, and they're going, they go drive past the flooded signs, and they go past so I don't know if there's anything we could do
I
about.
don't know the answer to that. Yeah, I do not know the answer to that.
And I don't know, studies can tell you whether these are people that are regular commuters, or, I think there's a regular commuter, and I think some of those are the 85th percentile, over 85th percentile commuters. We ran into one of my kids' teachers once, it was speeding down, the kids were, hey, that's Mrs. And I've seen Uber drive, I've been in an Uber that, was definitely way up on this chart. And I don't know if there's any way to know, or any way to handle that. I'm throwing out some ideas. The other thing I saw over in Stowe, there's a similar, near Lake Boone, they have this recreation enforcement area, and it's lower, there's a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit. And it's kind of a similar area, it's the Assabet River and Lake Boone. And they have temporary, they call them rumble strips, but they're like sort of temporary speed bumps. And so they had this like little area there, and they had the signs to kind of tell people about it. So I don't know, I mean, I think, the stretch along Pelham Island, along the pond, I think is in some ways the most dangerous, because there are pedestrians, there are fishermen, and it's also really kind of S-curve kind of thing. It's not a lot of visibility, especially on that parking lot, and it's not wide, and there's precipice, right? There's the water right there. So I'm just blowing the idea if that speed limit could get dropped to 20 there. I don't know.
We'd have to, Tom and I would have to take that under advisement and kind of get some more.
And I'm probably everybody's hating me here for proposing it even, but I want to float it because I think if we can get that time savings down, that maybe we'd get some of the cut through traffic, maybe Google would send the cut through traffic the other way.
Right. There's certain criteria to get a road below 25. I'd have to look it up, and there's some regulations. That's why some of those towns that adopted that 25 think they were not allowed to go any lower than 25. There's something in the law, but I'll research that with Tom.
And a sign that says, recreational area slow or something like that, because it is, there's a lot of people, fishing and the ice fishermen and people walking.
But to Chris's point about the last time the road was closed down by the pond for a while, people drove past the sign in Pelham Island by year 20, by Jeffrey at Irwin, and then down past where the sign was at the very end, we could see the water. They would still drive down until they realized, oh, it's really too deep.
Right.
I think the rule is the bigger the pickup truck, the more signs they drive.
Right.
And they were also moving the signs out of the way.
Yeah.
To do that, because they were nicely placed. And by the way, DPW and the police and fire were great during that time in being very helpful and checking on things. But the barrels kept getting moved out of the way. People were working at it. Or they would drive around them onto like the property in very wet, muddy stuff and really tear it up. And everyone listens. The lawn got really torn up from people turning around because you can't really turn around.
And they get stuck. There was a construction truck and they got through the brake. It was like completely stuck.
I actually ended up submitting a report to Google and that stopped. They did actually shut the road down.
Oh, good.
And I turned mine off, but somebody else did it too, and he left it on for so that we didn't have any traffic for about 2 weeks after the
Why don't we all just send a message to Google
Yeah.
I'm wondering, in addition to the usual white, black speed limit signs, highways sometimes have the orange or yellow and black warning signs for particular curves or something that say, you know, the drop the speed limit or. I didn't even know those are actually.
Those are
advisory.
Advisory signs,
Yeah.
So,
I don't think we have any of those for these, so the people talk about a number of curves that are dangerous. I don't know if we have any of those.
yeah, so we have to be very, we definitely can put up signs, certain signs, but we have to be very careful. We have to follow the MUTCD guidelines. We just can't willy-nilly throw up signs anymore like you used to be able to. We have to follow the state and federal guidelines for signage. Like, for example, like the crosswalk ahead signs, right? They have to be a certain distance from the crosswalk, right? We have to follow all those guidelines, and we have to order all the same type of sign in the right sizes. But we can certainly look at that too.
Because there's really a small number of dangerous curves, like the one around the pond where they build it, you know, that's one of them. There's one at the top of Jeffrey Road, where the road almost makes a right without turn if you're going.
I know.
West,
Yeah,
right.
just.
Yeah.
Right.
I wanted to comment on the Pequot Road situation. I think Pelham Island is in some ways kind of not a shortcut, really. I think there's a lot of roads in town that were, you know, Pequot Road is the only, you'd have to drive all the way up to the corner of 27 and 126 and then go back down. So it saves people a lot of time, and it keeps people out of that intersection. Bow Road and Gleason Lane go on. They get, you know, keeping a lot of people out of these lights. Pelham Island Road is basically, most of the people are like headed towards 128.
Right.
And it backs up. So people are just trying to cut the line. It's not like reducing, you know, there's no savings like there is another, so you're really just bypassing traffic. And actually, I think if you measure, I did it once, you measure the distance, it's actually a long cut. And if you certainly take the speed limit into account,
Right.
It's a long cut.
Right.
And there's no sidewalks too. Like, I keep people, I don't know if it's fully sidewalks.
Yeah, there is sidewalks.
Got some sidewalks, so I think that's kind of so I think, you know, everybody wants to keep, you know, in some ways, you know, you're hurting some people by clogging up intersections when you do this traffic calming measures, but in some ways, Pelham Island Road is unique in that it doesn't really have the downsides so much. If we were able to kind of cut through traffic, we're not, just people have to wait in line on Route 20 instead of waiting in line or being able to see past.
Right. I don't think you're ever gonna stop people from cutting through them. And that, I just, in reality, you're never gonna stop people from cutting through. They're gonna do what they wanna do.
But if we can, you know, use enforcement to minimize that 35 to 45 speed limit, I think everybody would be happy.
Yeah.
Is there any benefit in working with the National Wildlife Refuge folks? Do they have some authority or signage? Because that's one of the heartbreaking things. We moved to this road because one of the many reasons is the conservation.
They've all been laid off.
And, right. But, there have been at least 3 very big mature beavers I've seen as roadkill, countless turtles, blah, blah, blah. But it isn't just a regular cut, you're cutting through a National Wildlife Refuge. And to make people aware of that, just like the signs that say caution, blind curve, you know, that might, I don't know, but I'm curious if we have a relationship there with whoever's left.
Not much.
Not me.
Yeah, I don't presently, but it doesn't mean we can't begin.
Right, and they certainly have signs, if you're at the road and you're facing towards the land, so they'll say, you know, wildlife refuge shown in it, right? But if someone's cutting through, they don't know that they're on a refuge and the animal they see.
Right.
Yeah, we have to be, you know, selective with the signs. So you've probably heard the term sign blight.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
you could pepper the road with signs and it's just like, oh my word, this is just way too many.
Like Logan.
Yeah, it becomes ineffective. So we really need to be, I think, selective in what we do put out there.
Right. No, so I definitely think, again, we'll do another study, get that data out to you. We'll do it at the other end of the Sudbury side. Be curious to see, you know, the difference. Again, the numbers might be a little bit lower with school getting out next week. But then we could do another one in the fall.
Yeah, please do one between Hurd and Irwin as well. That stretch.
Yeah.
Pretty busy.
If I might, there's only so much we can do with the road itself and enforcement. if there is something we can do that is, I would call passive, and that's on the visibility issue. You don't change, like opening up vision, you're not changing the speed limit. You're not changing people's driving habits, but you're giving people in those cars, not just the speeder, but everybody else, walkers and all, a better chance at survival. And therefore, I think it's the most important thing to do. I know it's a fight with conservation, but there are certain points where you need to clear the visibility. And separately at this corner here, I'm telling you, I'm just waiting for a major accident. I've seen some of the data that say, here's where the hot spots are. I think it was part of your study. Shows one of the hottest spots for accidents in town. It's at that intersection of, but not major, because you can't speed there.
Right,
But
the bonus, right, the bonus of the traffic of Route 20, right?
But that is a very, very dangerous intersection right there. It's very difficult to get out, people get impatient. We've had some threats there to people in our neighborhood, from people in our neighborhood, I won't mention names, okay? So I think that's something we can do as a town. It may be a little frightful with some territory, but
That would be, that intersection, I think would be helped by that Route 20 proposal that would eliminate that angle. And
I proposed that back in
turn it around
2012.
90 degrees.
I proposed it 3 different times. The town highway consultant, Kevin Denry, I think was the.
He's still around.
Pardon?
He's still around.
And he concurred 100%. You should never have angles like that. You want cheese. The funny part of it is, I mean, there may be some trust problems here, but if you took the driveway from town hall and just went right across Route 20, you take out some of the land that's in that triangle. But at the same time, you give up that hypotenuse on Pelham Island, convert that to conservation. Town gains more conservation land, not loses it, and gains safety.
It's not really, it's not a sure thing that it's safer, because it'll make it much harder to come into Pelham Island Road if you're traveling, heading west on Route 20. It will make it much harder to get into Pelham Island Road. And it'll make it harder to get out and go east, because you're coming from a dead stop at a 90-degree turn rather than heading out, basically already moving in traffic direction.
Turns and coming.
Yeah, and turn again. It's not the be all and end all.
And what's interesting about that intersection too, if you notice, nobody comes out Pelham Island and tries to make a left onto Route 20.
I actually do.
Oh, do you?
I
don't see it that often.
It's safer and it's easier than coming out of the shopping center, because at the shopping center,
Can't see.
you can't see, and people are thinking, I'm gonna make the light, I'm not letting you out. Whereas if you come out at the angled intersection, people can see that they have a red light, and they're like, oh, go ahead, I'll let you out. It's so much safer and easier to come out and take a left turn at the end of Pelham Island Road than to come out of the shopping center.
Yeah, I'm with you, Robin, that's been
Yeah.
my total experience.
Much safer.
I would add on that apex where Pelham Island is 20, in the winter, an easy thing to do is, I know when we got heavy snow, they gotta get it off the road, but it ends up being an added visual barrier when you use that. And I'm not pointing a finger at it, but it's something you can say, hey, go back and clear that now that we've got the road safe.
They do usually.
Yeah, I was gonna say, a lot of times we actually remove the snow, you know.
Yes, yeah, well, it's very noticeable when you do.
Yeah.
Same at this apex here on the other side. It just takes a little while, but they do usually come back and clear.
Yeah, I forget who it was who said it, but ultimately the question is, can you cut through the shopping center, right? So now that we know the terrain's gonna be there, we didn't know, like, it maybe it's something new, you could do a cut through road, would be great, but terrain's gonna be there. But somebody mentioned we should do the same thing as Old Connecticut Path, like Coach Grove. Because you still keep, a lot of people do like to merge, they like to merge, and part of it, you have to turn left, if you're heading west, you're right up here, you're heading left. If you're there, cars have room to get around you. If that scoots up, you're gonna block up the entire intersection for forever. But whoever said it is like, we just need like that path there, that you have that ability to turn left, that it's a smooth left, it's a smooth out, but then it's an easy way to take the left. And without chopping up the park too, so.
And also now that the COA has moved over, there's already less traffic at that intersection already. It's already noticeable. So, because I go to town hall every day and it's like, oh wow, there's like no cars here anymore, so.
So there's a solution there somewhere. But
Yeah.
part of that is the whole Route 20 curb cut sidewalks, and that's all
Yep.
planning exercise, so yeah. So Tom, you haven't spoken a whole lot, so we're hearing a lot of sort of vegetation. You must have just a master list of areas that you need to target, is that?
Yeah, we've got a couple of pieces of, and I've actually flagged, I've been taking diligent notes, quiet, but taking notes. So we can certainly, use our, road machines and talk about some of the sightline issues that you're talking about, and, yeah, I could probably say more if I wasn't on WayCAM, but yes, we can do that,
Alright.
and I've flagged those locations down.
Somebody had mentioned poison ivy up by the pond area. There's also a ton of poison ivy between the bridge and the curb by the skiing's house.
Yes.
Tons of
Okay.
poison ivy too. It's just making it hard to jump off the road, because you're like, oh,
Yeah.
poison ivy for 3 weeks, oh, I don't know.
Yeah, yep.
Walked down the road today, appreciate the recent mowing of the edges.
I'm sorry?
The edges got recently mowed down as part of Pelham Island.
Okay.
I really appreciate that.
The Japanese knotwood.
And whatever else is on the side. So it's poison ivy. They still don't want to go into that, but. Never.
Yeah, and the one thing about-
Pushing you out into the road.
The one thing about that equipment, it's not very, how do I say, like precise or
Yes.
surgical, it's very rough. And so when we lower that boom, and we get a lot of complaints that after we go through there, people calling something, God, it looked like you took a machete to this, so we do the best we can with, it's very rough cutting equipment. It does the job.
So Tom, in the future, so say it's next year or a year down the road, and, sort of corners are getting forgotten, is there like an email that people can email the DPW?
Yeah, there's actually, we have a DPW.
Just like a
General
request
email.
or whatever?
Yeah,
Okay.
yes,
So
yeah,
people would go there if there's a concern or a corner.
absolutely. Or pick up the phone. I left a pile of my cards here on the table. You can, start with me, and
You want them reaching out to you, God bless you.
I will delegate it.
Ah, okay.
But rest assured, if you send it to me, I'm very good about either answering or delegating.
Wow,
Yeah,
you did not expect this.
yeah, so feel free to grab a card.
Direct connection. Great. Were there other, I can't remember, were there other DPW things you heard, the speed bumps are out? Signage?
Yeah, we wouldn't support that. I know,
I don't support them at all.
yeah, I know, Chief Berman, has not had a lot of success with the solar mounted, speed limit signs. You can't commit to anything tonight, but it's certainly something that, could be used. The other thing that, transportation specialists will tell you works, and sometimes it's not popular. Sudbury has double yellow lines on their segment. We could install double yellow lines down the center of Pelham Island Road. It does slow traffic. It does provide that visual. And, we're no longer allowed.
It's only a single yellow line, so.
I was just said tonight, it's double.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's double. Well, the MUTCD that Chief Berman referred to earlier no longer allows a single yellow. It's gotta be double.
Well, the good thing with the double yellow, it will hopefully diminish the line passing.
So that's the thing, I mean, it's, we did this on Oxbow Road 2 years ago, and, the residents were less than thrilled. But I actually walked it a number of times after hearing their complaints and made a number of video recordings. And what people are saying is that, oh, well, people won't cross the double yellow line. Now you're causing them to stay in their lane and get even closer to pedestrians. That's not the case. A double yellow line, the law is that you can't pass.
Exactly.
You are allowed to cross it, to swing out, and that's what I experienced on Oxbow Road all the time, all day long. When I'm walking, other people were walking, cars were swinging well clear of me. And, so I do know it is, it does have a positive impact on, we were talking about traffic mitigation, traffic calm. You were referring to.
Or was it savvy after they got used to it and saw the effects? Or
Yeah, I
like
think,
the excitement, or-
I think so. It is, what people were concerned about is that they said it makes it seem like it's, becoming a freeway. It went from a residential road, now it looks like it's a throughway, freeway. That was one really kind of a misinformed reception. in actuality, it really helps the situation and provides the means, or it's an optic that people, when you've got double yellow line, and also like on Clifford Hill Road, we've got fog lines. Pelham Island Road is very narrow, so I'm not sure whether I could actually install a fog line, but the two of those, that combination really causes people to, it's the optic, and you gotta stay within that, and people will, it does work. So,
Are there any restrictions because it's classified as a scenic road?
no. We can apply a double yellow on a scenic road as well.
What do you need for a decision on that? You want feedback here, or how do we get that?
I mean, I'll always welcome the feedback. I mean, I can,
Just do your Google.
yeah, what is the room, we'll poll the room, what do you think?
I find it very useful as a driver to have the lines there, because it helps me gauge where I am with respect to oncoming traffic. So I would be in favor of that.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's, we line all of our roads each year, so it's the next time the contract comes through, it'll be, I'm not sure exactly, it might be the fall. We can certainly add Pelham Island Road to it. And they do it at night, you'll wake up one morning and boom, they're there.
Speaking of Oxbow,
Do you have like a neighborhood, like email group?
Yeah, that's-
Is this,
yeah.
but there are more people?
yes, tons.
Someone should probably do a survey and,
Somebody just do a Google poll of, is everybody pretty much on your email list?
Yes.
So if we did a Google poll, you could just have a couple of questions.
Yeah.
Get some data.
Speaking of Oxbow, so up off of Oxbow is Sparrow Room going up into Lincoln. Have you ever been on there? I'm sure it's not legal, but what they do is they have no lines up the middle of the road, and they have
Just
sort
a
of
fine.
bike lane, pedestrian lanes on either side. So like if there's a pedestrian present, you're expected to move to the center of the road, drive up the center road, and give the pedestrian or the biker, ample leeway. I'm sure it's not legal, but it's interesting and it works. Everybody knows exactly where they need to be if there's somebody by the side of the road. Go check it out. It's
Okay.
weird.
Is that Lincoln? Or is
It's Lincoln.
Yeah.
It's the weirdest road.
but so for traffic calming, we could never do it on Pelham Island, we don't have
Yeah.
a width. But a lot of cities and towns are trying, Newton's got a few of them, the islands you're coming down a main road, and then they've got the island in the kind, you have to slow down, be to your right a little bit. That's a new traffic calming method. We would never have the width on Pelham Island, but when you see those, that's what that's for. It's instead of speed bumps and things like that, and they do work.
After the bridge, you might have room.
Snowplow drivers.
Yeah, no, you gotta get the snow plows. Yeah, it's gotta be pretty wide. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments?
I have one more question. Is there any traffic data about where there have been accidents? What are the real, the real hotspots in terms of actual accidents?
Yeah, I keep all that data.
The tree.
I know the bridge.
Yeah.
I know there's been accidents on the bridge.
Yeah, we haven't had any for a while. Our hot spots right now are definitely Route 30 and Route 20. Because going back to Google and Waze, during rush hour now, whenever there's an accident on the Mass Pike, Waze tells everybody to get off in Weston or Framingham and use Route 30 and Route 20 to cut through.
Oh.
So, yeah, and then, remember a couple weekends ago, the hike was down to the one lane. Route 30 was gridlocked for the whole weekend. And people trying to cut through on Route 30. Like I came into town and I was heading back toward Framingham, and I came up Main Street, made the right, the traffic was backed up all the way into Framingham to Speen Street. To try to that was the line.
Yeah, and I think on 128, some more in the west, and sometimes those side roads are just, they bog down Route 20.
Right.
So it sounds like not a lot, so maybe, maybe there's no way to statistically decide whether the bridge is more dangerous or whether there's certain curves that are dangerous on Pelham Island Road, or that's too granular.
Yeah, we don't, believe it or not, we do not have a lot of accidents on Pelham Island Road.
Just that one tree coming up, heading up to the bridge. Everybody hits
I mean,
it.
we have, we have our hotspots. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, Old Connecticut Path, you know, Commonwealth Road, almost every day, Commonwealth Road. Yeah, you know, just for data purposes, right? So, since January 1st of this year, as of today, I checked it before I came down, we've already responded to 141 accidents. That's a good number.
And none on Pelham.
Not on Pelham Island. You know,
Drive home safe.
yeah. Also, you know, same as Tom, you know, I'm always available if you have a question, you know, feel free to call me. I always answer I always return voicemails and everything and emails. You know, and again, I'll do another study. Let me get the other 2 neighborhoods done. I promise, keep promising people. And then, I'll do another one and then we can do another one in the fall.
And you mail out the other seat card.
Yeah, so what I'll do is I'll email it to Becky because she's got the email group.
You're on it,
Oh, I'm on it.
you're on it.
Oh, even better.
Yeah, just reply all.
Sure.
One last question, littering. And so this is, does the town have no littering signs, or do you guys enforce that at all or anything? Because Pelham Mountain Road gets a lot of litter, which I know because I run it like almost every other day, I just moved. So if you're wondering why it suddenly gets dirtier, because I'm not picking it up anymore. But it's just like, you know, you're running by, it's really easy, you probably see moving my dog, right? But it just, people just, because there aren't a lot of houses, they'll just toss, right? And it's the, you know, it's the coffee cups, and it's the bags, and it's the plastic in this, and you know, it's just like, what's that?
And then bottles.
And the nip bottles are just, yeah. But so the question is, what's that?
It drives you crazy. I mean, I look at stuff when I'm driving home,
Yeah.
for real, I can't believe it, yeah.
Yeah,
Was a lot worse, much better than it used to be.
well, there you go, it's gonna get worse because I'm gone, so.
One of my theories is if you keep it clean, people won't throw things. And
They
if you get it full of trash, so what?
Yeah.
You add it to, don't even notice.
Yeah, right, but it's something that, you know, as we think about, and once Terrain goes in and Duncan goes in, like, right? We're gonna start seeing it, and if people aren't picking it up, then it's just gonna feel like it's much worse, but then the question is, as they open as businesses, can they keep on Pelham Island Road, that stretch, can they keep it clean, can they work together and just pick up the litter? Because that's usually the worst.
Yeah, kind of be a good neighbor, yeah.
So,
Be a good neighbor, and then
Right.
the question is, you know, it's like,
and I met the owner of the gentleman that's opening the Dunkin' Donuts. He definitely wants to be involved in the community and wants to have a big impact on the community, so.
I think both of them could.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
we can kind of engage both of them,
Yeah.
but that's usually the worst, before they had dumpsters, and you were mentioning, you know, if anything flies out of the parking lot, it all ends up, you know, right on the river,
Mhm.
so, which you hate to see with turtles and everything, so.
Right.
So, yeah, we can kind of work with them, so if you happen to be talking with them, if you can bring that up, but then the question is further down, do you ever enforce no littering? Because you see a lot of it along Bird Pond, and, you know, it's ridiculous.
I mean, we can enforce it, it's just that we have to see it.
Yeah.
You know, it's, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And if someone sees a cruiser driving on, they're not gonna throw the stuff out their window, you know?
Exactly. Nobody's gonna do that. What's that?
Animal cameras,
Motion's in.
they are animal cameras.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Hey, guys.
That's good.
Good seeing everyone.
Sorry to have kept you from the concert, maybe.